by weight into our composting facility. So going back again to this Emmett County one-pager of organic waste diversion solutions, as you can see in 2024, I believe this is the most updated data, we were currently diverting about 1,000 tons of we are creating we are diverting about 1,000 tons of organic material a year. This year in 2025, I think the statistics have gone up a little bit, so we'll have to look and see what we had diverted in terms of tonnage in 2025. But we have a goal of target diversion of getting 50% of food waste out of landfills by 2030. That's a state goal, as well as one of our regional goals here in the 10-county area. So like kind of mimicking the state's goals of 50% of food waste out of landfills by 2030. It's a pretty lofty goal, but I believe that we are creating local strategies here in the 10-county area that can be modeled for the state of Michigan, and many eyes are on us here in the Northwest Lower Peninsula of Michigan. And so having goals and lofty goals and aspirational goals is really important. So if we could divert another 1,000 or 1,500 tons a year, how are we going to do that, and how are we going to track that data, as well as kind of what would it really take to expand to that juncture? So in this study with seeds, they identified about 8,000 tons of organic material generated, and those numbers could even be a little low. So just knowing what the data is out there is helpful for goal setting, but also we don't have to be the only solution in town. In fact, we want a multifaceted approach of well-versed champions and master composters for backyard composting as being the lowest carbon footprint and producing a beautiful product that you can use on your own property, as well as community composting efforts with community gardens and schools, and any opportunity to tie in food rescue opportunities, measuring that as a source of diversion from landfill, as well as feeding hungry people and feeding animals. So, and all of the above strategy. And then, you know, the fact is that we do collect with a diesel truck. We use some of our older infrastructure. We took one of our big drop site bins and our hook lift trucks and what I call duct tape and super glue. We really are very scrappy individuals up here in Emmett County. We just put a collection truck together, and it has been serving our purpose for the last 10 years. But it does run on diesel fuel, and it does have to travel about 36 miles on its route to bring those collected food scraps from those locations where they're generated back to our facility to make compost. So duly noted, it would be aspirational to be able to collect in electric trucks, and there are many that are doing that, like Five Heart Earthworm Farm down in southern Michigan, as well as our friends at Carter's Compost, who now have an electric vehicle that they can collect food scraps for their program with the city of Traverse City and seeds as well. So I do have the one pagers for Antrim County as well here, but hopefully my friend Kristen Page will be able to share more on that, because I have the tangible copy. But just to let you know, the data is something similar. Currently in Antrim County, they documented that about 41 tons a year are being diverted, and about 6,000 tons are being generated, with a target diversion rate of 1,400 tons by 2030. So all good aspirational goals. And how can we all collectively work, Antrim County, between seeds and Lindsay, your consultant, and the village of Elk Rapids, getting closer to those diversion goals? So where there's a will, there's a way, and we've got plenty of very inspired people like you folks taking the time out of your busy days and your busy evenings to attend a master composter class. All right. This is like the quintessential Institute for Local Self-Reliance 30-gallon trash bag. And this is one of the inspirations for a lot of materials management planning across the state, and a graphic that we like to use, because most residents in Michigan, including us here in the northwest corner of the Lower Peninsula, can identify with a 30-gallon bag of trash, right? Of that, almost 50% of municipal solid waste that's set out at the curb in this 30-gallon trash bag is material that came from nature, that was once alive. So in the form of food scraps, being about 21% of our disposed of in most typical households, garbage. And 15% is like would be paper products. That includes napkins, toilet paper, paper cups, paper packaging. Some of that might be recyclable in your curbside program and your drop site programs, but most of that is not being diverted from landfill. And then, of course, yard trimmings and wood waste. In Michigan, we do have a yard waste ban. Thank goodness we do have one form of like diversion from landfill. And the reason being is that yard trimmings and organics are one of the largest generators of methane, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas. I learned in a presentation on Tuesday from Sarah Archer at 5 Heart Earthworm Forum that Michigan has a methane gas problem coming from our landfills. And when you look from outer space, you can see the methane from outer space over Michigan, over those landfill environments. So we got a gas problem, Michigan. And this is one of the many reasons that we believe that we should be reducing food waste is to stop generating so much methane and greenhouse gases. And oftentimes I reflect on why we're throwing away so much food, and it really isn't coming from institutions or large scale cafeterias or businesses. The majority of food waste is actually coming from residential sources. Of the 4 bags of groceries a typical household might bring home, almost 25%, one of those grocery bags you might as well just throw away before you walk through your door, because that's how much food we are wasting. And perishable food is the most vulnerable to being disposed of, because if you don't have a plan for the perishables, chances are it will meet a wilty death in that crisper drawer of your refrigerator. You think about a container of strawberries or berries coming all the way from California, and they have to make that 2,500-mile journey to get to our refrigerators in northern Michigan. And we throw it in the back of the refrigerator, and we turn around a week later, and there are those strawberries all dried up in the refrigerator. So very preventable, actionable items that we could be tackling with food waste reduction by just working with our communities, providing them with education about how to preserve foods better. How, when you go grocery shopping, shop with a list. If you do end up buying that cilantro, instead of throwing it in the crisper drawer, once you trim off a couple of pieces for your dish, why not put it in a little container of water by your kitchen sink and allow that to give it a little bit more longevity? So very simple tips on how to reduce food waste. We make connections with farmers locally. If we have food production facilities like American Spoon Foods is located here in Petoskey. You have many producers, food and fruit producers in the Elk Rapids, Antrim County, and Grand producers and farmers. Pigs love to eat American Spoon Food peach pulp when they have to do their purges of peach pulp. And there are certain products that we would love to get to pig farmers and chicken farmers before we compost it. So just thinking about those source reductions across the board, residentially, commercially, and industrially, where there's a will, there's a way. And we all have food banks in our communities. We all probably have farmers in our communities. We have most of us have yard waste, composting sites, registered sites with the state. So this might be a formula for how we systematically figure out in Antrim County, Emmett, Grand Traverse, and Charlevoix County, how we can be more in control of our food waste situation, sending less to landfill, and more in our regional circular economy. So Institute for Local Self-Reliance, love them. They also just published a Keep Compost Local toolkit, and it features several examples of small and community-based composters across the country, including our friend Megan at Carter's Compost in Traverse City and her public-private partnership with Seeds, the City of Traverse City, and Carter's Compost. So check out those resources, and I'm sure Lindsay can connect you all to that amazing Institute for Local Self-Reliance information and get you that toolkit, because it is very helpful for small and scrappy community composters like all of us. We also kind of base a lot of our projects off of these sustainable materials management from Eagle, and the one on the right is also from Institute for Local Self-Reliance and the hierarchy to reduce food waste and grow communities. So I really like ILSR's graphics because I feel like it's more community-based, less like big composter, big anaerobic digestion focused. And I know these are kind of small, but the idea being source reduction is always the highest and best use. The food waste that you never generate to begin with, like the kilowatt hour that you never generate, is always the most efficient kilowatt hour. So source reduction, edible food rescue. We have amazing partners here in Emmett County. We have the Manna Food Project in Grand Traverse County that also works in Antrim, Charlevoix, and Roscommon, maybe Wexford County. They good food rescue of Goodwill of Greater Grand Traverse County specializes in food rescue in a 3-county area. So definitely want to have Taylor present to your larger group both the Antrim MMMP as well as Elk Rapids and opportunities for food rescue, because we want to feed those humans and rescue that food before it becomes a source of waste or before it becomes composted. So home composting follows the hierarchy, followed by small scale community composting, medium scale, and then centralized larger composting facilities. So this is kind of like the ideal hierarchy in terms of what's most preferred and least preferred. It's hyper local. The lower distance that you take and move organics, the better off the carbon footprint of closing that loop.
So you guys, Taylor is coming next month, and from Food Rescue, Goodwill. So that's exciting.
So that pretty much covers my program. The only picture I really have of our facility is this graphic here, which shows our windrows back in, I believe that was the fall of 2024. We do aerial drone photographs with a local photographer who donates her time to us. And so annually we have to report to the state of Michigan, to Eagle, October the 1st every year. And so we try to take facility photos in the fall, but I could tell in the background of this photo that showed on the screen right now that we were like at the very end of the leaf season, because I can tell that most of the deciduous trees had already fallen for the season. But you can see these windrows, and windrow composting is using a pretty low technology. We have a 4-foot thermometer for measuring or taking temperatures, and the squeeze test in our hands for moisture content. And then we use a loader to form our windrows. And so this is one of the lowest budget technologies. It takes a lot of space, however. So an upgrade to our facility in the next few years, we are actually composting on an old township dump. So an investment in the future would be almost a multi-million-dollar phased-in project where we could have a surface of asphalt or cement, so that we could start installing ASP, aerated static pile systems. And you can start with PVC pipe and a bouncy house blower if you wanted to start with a low budget ASP system. So we might start some small pilot programs with modified and low budget ASP systems to then eventually graduate to a larger ASP scale for a medium-sized compost facility. It would allow us to compost more material on a smaller footprint, as well as create compost faster. The problem with ASP systems is they require water, and we don't have a water source. We don't use water in our facility. We rely on ambient rainfall, and moisture content with our feedstocks to provide moisture. So for ASP systems, you need to, because you're forcing air through the pile, you would need a water source to keep that material wet so that the temperatures remain in mesophilic and thermophilic 130 and then 145 to 160 degrees to burn off those pathogens and keep those microbes, feeding them without killing them with the temperature. So those are opportunities. We do have a capital improvement plan. And really, our composting facility doesn't really stand on its own economically. It gets subsidized by the other portions of our facility, the sale of recyclables, the tipping fees on garbage at our transfer station, and all the other funding mechanisms that we use as a sustainable composting site. You can see here, like, just to give you an idea how we're funded, and I won't get too much in depth into this, but like in 2023, you can see that the sale of recyclables and was at 26%. So the largest portion, this is how we fund our program. We don't get any county tax dollars. Our curbside recycling services for municipalities and townships, which we provide that service for 5 townships. And then, excuse me, I'm sorry. And then processing for other counties, and then our waste transfer station revenue. So this is like the complicated kind of like pie chart of how Emmett County makes its money. But just to say that like our compost facility doesn't stand on its own yet. So how could we get that, and how could we become more sustainable? It's by taking in more material and producing more compost and making sure we are selling out of our compost every year and bringing in more feedstocks while staying underneath the regulations of the state of Michigan, and also partnering with all the other composters in our county. We work closely with Mishko Ode Farm, which is a part of our native sovereign nation, our federally recognized tribe here. Mishko Ode Farm has been identified in this SEEDS regional study as a secondary composting site because Emmett County doesn't have to be the only solution for composting in the county. So I'm gonna take any questions if you have any, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about our program.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
Just have a comment. I just think she is like the world's ambassador for composting. And
Yeah.
going on that tour was absolutely fantastic. I mean, you just come away from there so enthusiastic, like, okay, and I'm already visualizing how I had set up a small composting area behind my garage like 10 or 15 years ago, and it's just gone to seed.
Huh?
But now I'm out after that tour and listening to Lindsay tonight, I'm just like,
Let's do this. I know. I
I'm
really,
already visualizing how I can refurbish that and get that going again.
yes.
Really something really, really impressive.
I know.
Oh,
And
thank
it's,
you. That's so kind.
and they are just such a fine example of how we as a community can do this.
Yep.
We can participate in this. We can make a big difference collectively. And it's just so fun to see it in action.
Yeah.
It's
complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I wanted to try to take this group on, because when it gets nicer, I want to do some field trips. We're not just sitting in a room the whole time talking. Leading up to that, I wanted to have people like Lindsay, and Kristen's going to speak next, in order to kind of, for you guys to really see collectively what's going on in northwestern Michigan. And there are real things happening right now. So yeah, I mean, her program is amazing. I mean, their recycling program is amazing. And, they are an alternative to GFL. I mean, for other counties, they serve other counties. So I think as a community, we should think. I'm pushing for it because I'm in the materials management planning committee for Antrim. So, I mean, they offer a lot more too.
Thank you for saying that, Lindsay. We are a hub and spoke program, and so we do process recycling for Sheboygan and Presque Isle County. We used to process for Otsego and Charlevoix County, but we lost those contracts to GFL and Single Stream. It's not to say that single stream and dual stream are not compatible, because they totally are. You can have single stream drop off sites and offer, because all 83 counties, any municipality that's over 5,000 people will have to offer curbside service after 2027. So as municipalities and townships prepare through their materials management planning process, becoming or having the opportunity to like bid on Village of Elk Rapids curbside recycling services would be an opportunity that we want to make sure that we are included, because when you have only one provider that provides all services, I won't say, not to talk bad about anybody, because the market is the one that moves these kind of economies forward, but like we have something to offer in terms of dual stream recycling, the real recycling promise, and keeping things local. Like recycling is a local activity just like composting is. So what happens in Traverse City, I wouldn't know necessarily, but I can tell you that at Emmett County, anything that we accept for recycling, we recycle it, even if it's at a cost to us, because we just need to figure it out and stay the course. So we've talked about glass. Lindsay, you and I have talked about that extensively. You folks there in Elk Rapids, every time I drive through Elk Rapids on my way down to Traverse City, because I serve on a board of directors of the Northern Michigan Community Action Agency. So I drive through Elk Rapids all the time on my way to Traverse City, and I see all the boats in the marina. Ample opportunities to start collecting marina shrink wrap and either work with us at Emmett on aggregating that there and then getting it over to us for free recycling, or working through the Michigan Recycling Coalition and their marina boat collection program and their Dr. Shrink and their buying and the bag program. So there's ample opportunities to like divert and pilot materials that are being generated in our communities right now, and scaled opportunities for collection, aggregation, processing, and then getting that material to market where it can be made into new products. So I look forward to talking to all of you about that in a future conversation. And community composting and composting is the heart of who I am, and I'm all about it. So any opportunities we can provide to do tours or show and tell and get to visit other facilities, I would encourage you to like even go and visit like Interlochen Campus's composting program is so near and dear to my heart, and I'd love to shout that from the trees about what a wonderful job they're doing on a campus in Northern Michigan of closing the loop and producing beautiful compost that's used locally right there on the campus. So all kinds of amazing opportunities in Northwest Lower Michigan.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. And yeah, and they also, so they offer, recycling to counties too, so they could bid on our Antrim County, contract. That's what I'm pushing for. But anyway, so thank you so much, Lindsay.
So I
really
should just stop
appreciate it.
sharing right now. Is that okay? Should I just stop the sharing button?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Well, next time we're coming to see you.
Okay. Well, I want to come down for a visit again soon. So, and there might be ample opportunities, because what Kristen's going to talk about are like, ooh, there's new opportunities for hosting drop sites and all kinds of good stuff. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay. That was great.
All right, now we have Kristen. She's with Seeds, and she's going to talk more about kind of spreading this local composting, these opportunities for these local composting facilities. All right, here you go.
Great, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm Kristen Page. Again, I work with Seeds and our Regional Organic Waste Diversion Initiative. As Lindsay was mentioning, compost is great to keep as close to the source of generation as possible. So in the market study that Lindsay was talking about, it outlined a lot of solutions that fit for our community. And what it really highlighted is that we need composting solutions and organic waste diversion solutions at multiple scales. And one of the ones that we found to be really energizing is building up a network of drop-off sites for food scraps, because a lot of our community is rural, and there's a lot of organizations that really want that product. So thinking about like our farms, our community gardens, even just us individuals that might want to open up a food scrap drop off in our neighborhood for our neighbors to use. So what we saw was an opportunity to create a community where we could do some shared learning and learn how to support each other, build some shared resources. And so last year was the first year that we started hosting a community of practice. So last year we had 4 new sites in our region that started accepting food scraps from their community. And one of the things that we did was we host in the spring a design session where we share a lot of resources. So there are a lot of documented best practices and guides that you can use if you want to open a food scrap drop off. But what we want to do is create a community around it. So this summer, what we have planned is a design session that is scheduled for 4/3. It's a 2-hour session where we'll cover a lot of like the instructional stuff, like the best practice guides, what to look for in site planning, what some of the considerations are, thoughts around like different types of partnerships, education and outreach, some of the planning aspects that you would want to do early in the season. And then the group is going to meet every 6 weeks throughout the summer, but we are going to take a hiatus during July and August, knowing that it's a really busy season for everyone. So we're going to have 5 sessions throughout the season. So the community of practice ended up being a really engaging group. It's a great forum to bring any challenges that you have, share them in a group where people are trying to solve the same problems and you can use each other as a sounding board. But another great benefit was building some shared resources. So we are recruiting right now. As I mentioned, we have that launch session coming up next week. But we are looking to build a group of sites that want to host food scrap drop-offs in their communities. So we're doing it a couple of ways in that there is an opportunity where if you want to make a commitment to having a certain scale and a timeline for operating or for opening, there is some offered compensation. So for a limited number of sites. So if you are interested in hosting a food scrap drop-off and you would be interested in participating in the cohort and making a commitment to launching your food scrap collection site by July 1st, operating for a minimum of 3 months during the season, with at least 10 participants and attending 4 out of the 5 community of practice meetings and reporting on some end of season metrics, there's an opportunity for a $500 stipend, as well as 3 hours of coaching throughout the season. So you could work one-on-one with someone who's experienced in the space to help you solve any of your problems, build a site design, and any plan that you have around communications, outreach, any sort of support that you need, that coach is available to help you with. But then you also have this community that's meeting on a regular basis where you can bring any of those challenges or learnings. And we'll also be co-creating some resources that will be shared. So things like posters that you could use for communications. One of the things that we identified last year that we're going to build this season is like a social media plug and play kit with some posts that you could use to educate about contamination, about why this matters, about how to participate. And then another one that was identified was some shared signage that we could use, as well as some shared branding. So the opportunity is available. We are looking to launch very soon. That design session is happening in Traverse City, and it is happening in a place where we also will be able to do a tour of the Seeds Compost Petting Zoo, which has 8 different composting systems set up on display. So you can see what different systems look like. Last year, most of our sites used a like donut bioreactor solution, which is a pretty low maintenance solution for composting where you layer stuff, but the donut hole in the middle allows for a lot of air circulation and it just kind of like packs down over the season. But you'd have an opportunity to explore all of the solutions that might be a fit for you. But on the flip side, so knowing that there's that compensation and coaching option if you want to make a commitment to meet that criteria, we also have there's opportunity to engage on a more flexible basis. So if you want to launch a site, but you want to start smaller, you're just looking to do it for a couple of your neighbors, but you still want to come share and learn in that community sessions, there's also an open invite for that. And we'll be inviting in similarly some like practitioners like Lindsay to share about learnings through their drop-off sites. As well as Megan from Carter's Compost, and some others in our community, because we're very lucky to have a really strong community around this. And it's been really great in that it feels very supportive to be in a space where you get to share your challenges, learn from each other, build some shared resources. The energy that has come out of that has been really amazing to experience last year. So I appreciate the chance to share about this opportunity. If you all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
She had mentioned that there's 4 new sites. She didn't mention where those sites were.
Oh, 4 new sites?
Yeah, so last year we had 4 participating sites. So one was at the Seeds Farm. Another one was Woo Woo Radio in Alberta. So it's a community radio station that had a compost drop off at their site, as well as the Lively Neighbor Food Farm in Honor, as well as Interrun, which might be a familiar name to some of you. So in Interlaken, that one was actually reviving a old operation that had did not have continuity in leadership, and so it was reviving an old site and getting that going again. So we're really excited about the network growth that we've already seen, and we are inviting all of them back to also participate throughout the season. So you'll get some learning experience from those sites as well.
Awesome, Kristen. And yeah, other place I planned to take you all was the Seeds Compost Petting Zoo. It's just not, it's a nice overview of the things you could do in your backyard, and just all the different ways that you can compost. So I'll be tapping you for that, Chris.
Great.
To try to set something up, but we want to wait until the snow melts
Yeah.
and we have a little bit warmer weather where we can see the action happening. So probably not till June or something. But,
sounds great. Look forward to it.
and then I guess also for both of our guest speakers, if there are things that if you could share some of this information that you provided us today, you can just respond to that invite, and I think you can email everybody that you're like an attachment, a PDF file or whatever, if you wanted to share.
Yeah, that's 1 page.
Like these 1-pagers and stuff, if that would be okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
That would hit everybody on the list.
Great.
Does anybody else have any questions? I am actively trying to recruit for Kristen for Antrim County and Elk Rapids area. I had a couple people interested around here, one of our participants that from last week that couldn't come tonight